Hello, everyone. You are listening to Kathy Barnette. I pray all is well. I'm sure you have all heard by now that Don Lemon was arrested. Apparently, he was arrested in Los Angeles in a hotel around midnight. According to some of the law enforcement officers, he initially resisted arrest and then began to comply. But I'm so sure he thought to himself, oh, snap. Now, if you have been listening to the talking heads on all of legacy mainstream media and some of these podcasters, many are saying this is a question of whether or not he is protected of Don Lemon, what he did by rushing inside of a church and disrupting the church services, if those actions were protected under the First Amendment because he's a member of the press. Well, I want you guys, my listeners, not to be manipulated. And in order to not be manipulated, you got to understand some basic rules, right? We are a nation of laws, and those laws have been enumerated. So we don't have to make it up as we go or act confused. Here is the First Amendment, and it reads, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, freedom of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. What most Americans don't realize that the First Amendment, there are 5 rights within the First Amendment. Now, according to many of these talking heads in mainstream media, freedom of the press trumps all the other rights in the 5th Amendment. That is not true. Not only were our founding fathers incredibly intelligent, they were intentional. And freedom of press is not the first of the 5 rights. Instead, as I read, there are 5 freedoms. There are 5 rights within the First Amendment: freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom to assemble peaceably, Minnesota, freedom to petition our government with our grievances, to solve our problems, to solve any injustices we feel may be occurring. Those are the 5 rights in the First Amendment. Now, the first right is the one that Don Lemon has trampled on, and that is the freedom of religion. Now, what does freedom of religion mean? Does it mean freedom to be a Catholic, freedom to be a Baptist, freedom to be a Pentecostal, freedom to be a Satanist? No. What freedom of religion really mean is that you and I have the freedom to live our lives according to our conscience, not the conscience of the king, not the conscience of some would-be strong man who burst into your service to tell you how you should be living and what you should or should not be doing. No, the First Amendment, the first right in the First Amendment is freedom of religion, or freedom to live according to your conscience. Now, what we've decided to do in America is not only will I live according to my own conscience, but I will associate and assemble in a building we call a church to practice or to live according to my conscience, not as an individual, but as an assembly, not to forsake the assembly of ourselves. That is what I'm going to do. That is what Don Lemon burst in, and we will find out if the court will agree that he trampled on that First Amendment. But now, the First Amendment is followed, or the first right is followed by the second right in the First Amendment. According to our founding fathers, who were so not just intelligent, but intentional, not only do I have the right to think my own thoughts and to live according to my own conscience, but I have the right to speak those thoughts out loud. Freedom of speech. That is what our founding fathers said. Not only do I have the right to think my own thoughts, but I have the right to walk outside and to speak those thoughts out loud, followed by freedom of the press. That's the third right. It's not the first right. It's not the second right in the First Amendment. It's the third right, which is to protect the first two rights. According to our founding fathers, freedom of the press is like the crazy glue that holds it all together. That if the government is infringing upon my right, my religion, my right to live according to my own thoughts and to speak those thoughts out loud, well, the press will, as an observer, observe what is happening and then turn and inform the nation of what is going on, so that I'm not just suffering by myself in a bubble while the government comes and infringes upon my freedom of religion and freedom of speech, but the press elevates and puts a spotlight and platforms what the government is doing to the people. It is not written so that the press can interject itself into the events that are occurring. But what the press is supposed to do is observe and then tell everyone else what is going on, not walk into a church alongside the agitators and then stick a mic in a pastor's face. Now, the fourth and fifth, just to round this all out, the Fourth Amendment is that we as citizens have the right to peaceably assemble, right? Not blowing whistles, honking horns, interjecting ourselves between law enforcement officers and a bullet. No, that's not what we're supposed to be doing. It's peaceably assemble. Followed by the fifth one, which is we have the right to petition our government to redress our grievances, listen to my grievances, fix my grievances, write policies to accommodate my grievances, help me. Those are the first five rights in the First Amendment. Now, what does freedom of the press not mean? What does it not mean? It does not mean you get to trespass. It does not mean you have a hall pass to walk into my home or to walk into my worship service or to shove a microphone in my face because you feel an itch coming on. It does not give you a hall pass. Imagine, if you would, if we lived in a country where just because you're a reporter, a member of the press pool, you have a hall pass. So now you can interrupt a wedding service. You can interrupt a funeral service. You can just walk right inside of my home and say, hey, I'm a member of the press. I have the right to be here. No, it's silly. And we know that it's silly. These rights, either we are a land of laws or we can rip it up and do whatever seems right in our individual eyes. Now we're Somalia. When you start doing that, we become Somalia. And we don't want to do that, right? So now you are informed. Listen to this, re-listen to it, share it. Before you share it, hit the subscribe button, followed by the notification button, followed by a comment. Let's talk, let's engage, because we all need to do a better job in finding people we need to listen to. Because if what you listen to, just like what you watch, you become, and it begins to impact how you think. So you have now been informed that freedom of the press does not trump freedom of religion, nor does it trump freedom of speech. Sorry, not sorry. Share. Blessings.